Welcome to Betterverse, the premier crypto research ecosystem. Today's topic, an introduction to DeFi, decentralized finance. There's a lot going on in DeFi, and we're going to introduce you to a lot of these components if you're fairly new to it, or even if you've been looking for just better resources to mitigate the risk. I got some awesome resources for you. First, what is it? What is DeFi? Can you make money at it? Well, of course you can, but there are risks. I'm gonna give you those awesome resources I was talking about. Be sure to like the video, subscribe if you like what you're getting today. First, a disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor. I do not advise on investment decisions at all. I can't even tell you that you should be in crypto. That's a decision that you gotta make. Speak to a financial advisor for help when seeking financial advice. Everything shared is for educational purposes only. And with that out of the way, what is DeFi? First, the boring definition, then we'll get into the good stuff. Decentralized finance offers financial instruments without relying on intermediaries like brokerages, exchanges, or banks. Instead, it uses smart contracts on a blockchain. So it's often referred to as a trustless system. Sounds kind of weird, trustless. Sounds like something you wouldn't want to do. But actually, the advantage to a trustless system is, and the reason why it's referred to that way, is if you've got smart contracts that do what they're supposed to do, you don't have to trust somebody to do it. It's going to work the way it's supposed to work. And that's the beauty of this. You don't have to trust a bank. You don't have to get the bank's permission. You don't have to go through a bunch of red tape. You get to interact with this more free, network of, smart contracts out there that allow you to take part in all kinds of investment opportunities. And this is opening it up to people throughout the world that didn't used to have access. And that's why it's so exciting. Let's talk about some of the components of the DeFi ecosystem. I know this is basic for some people, but I promise even if you know this stuff, I'm going to show you some really cool resources that are helping people tap into a 10x, 100x, like sometimes within minutes of entering the trade. So, I mean, there's some really exciting stuff going on in DeFi. So sit tight if you are more experienced and you're just looking for the good stuff. But just want to give everybody who's new a quick look at all the pieces of this. You need a wallet. This is a non-custodial wallet, which means you don't need somebody's permission to access it. It's your wallet. You control your funds. MetaMask is a common one. Trust Wallet, Token Pocket are common ones. I prefer MetaMask. Everyone's got their preferences. I know there's all kinds of controversy around which one's better, but MetaMask seems to bring up the least challenges for new people. So if you're kind of new, I think MetaMask is the place to start. I'm going to have resources under this video if you want to learn how to, a how-to video on how to download MetaMask. All kinds of things. I'm going to put tons of resources down below to plug you all into this stuff. But this is just a wallet to allow you to interact with the world of DeFi and cryptocurrency, and you're in control of your funds. Now, there are, like hardware wallets that aren't on your system, and you can store your crypto there, but these allow you to interact with smart contracts, these wallets that I'm talking about. So you would need a wallet to interact with the smart contracts that make up the DeFi world. So again, look below for more resources if you don't have one. Then there's Dexes. That's also part of the DeFi system. These are decentralized exchanges, the opposite of centralized exchanges. Decentralized exchanges don't require you to interact with people and have to do all kinds of stuff like KYC and get people's permission to log in and access their information. A lot of times centralized exchanges are considered not very safe. They've been hacked. We just heard about, a couple that got caught for being a part of apparently having 3.2 or $3.8 billion worth of Bitcoin because it was stolen from Bitfinex, a centralized exchange. Decentralized exchanges don't have any people really involved in managing them. Obviously, there's some aspect to it, but it's really just between you and the smart contract. There's Pancake Swap, there's UniSwap, and there's a lot more of them. I think some of them are better than others. Again, look at the resources below if you want to kind of plug into the world of decentralized exchanges. This allows you to go to an exchange without KYCing, without logging in, and to be able to safely just trade your Ethereum for another crypto, like Engine is another cryptocurrency. This is showing a snapshot off of Uniswap. Pancake Swap operates off the BNB, the Binance Smart Chain. And so if you went to Pancake Swap, you could exchange BNB for another token. And so you need to get familiar with DEXs if you're going to really interact with the world of crypto and DeFi in particular. And I'll put some resources below if you're new to this. Another component to the DeFi ecosystem is staking, pools, and yield farming. And, this can get a little tricky because they do pay these high yields. Like a really, one of the safer places to do this is Pancake Swap. They have people park their crypto there so they can have what's called liquidity. So that, remember when I was talking about here with Dexes, like PancakeSwap as a DEX, you can trade your BNB for another token. Well, if you come to do that, they need that other token in their exchange, in the decentralized exchange, kind of parked there so that, they can do the trade. So if somebody comes there, an hour later and wants to get some of that token, they got some. And so to help give it liquidity, they pay these interest payments, these really high interest payments to get people to put their crypto, on their exchange. So it's there for people to do the exchange with. So that's, how that works. And a lot of these pay really high percentage rates. I doubt that's going to be the case forever, but while crypto is young and while they're building their infrastructure, that's how they're enticing people to, to build their exchanges. And so, for example, right now, this is a real snapshot of an account that I have that's got, it's showing that Cake is Pancake token, 63 Cake since the last time I collected it, which was like a week earlier, which is worth $501 at the time that I took this snapshot. I'm getting 50% annually. It's huge. It means if there's 100 grand in there, right now it's showing there's 84 grand. If it was 100 grand, then that's 50 grand profit a year. So, these are really, and there's ones that pay much higher, a lot of but I'm going to talk a little bit about the risk because the risk is high with some of these. I would say Pancake, which, a lot of people know that Binance is behind, is very stable because Binance is behind it. Again, not financial advice, but comparative to what else is out there, is considered one of the safer ones. And this interest rate has actually been considered low, believe it or not. Now, one of the obvious risks to this is Cake can go down. In fact, it has. This was 100 grand. Now it's 84 grand. So the 50 grand that I make could be offset by, the token going down. And that's one of the risks of staking in pools and yield farms. I'm going to talk about the difference between staking pools and yield farms in another video. You can look in the resources below for that. But just give you some general concepts here. They're all the same in the sense that you're putting your crypto somewhere, and entrusting it somewhere. If it's a smart contract that really is, safe, then it's going to work the way it's supposed to work and you're fine. I just want to warn you, and I'm going to get into this in a minute, some of them aren't as safe as they may seem. That's why I stick with the ones that, I'm familiar with, like Pancake Swap is backed by Binance, which is one of the largest companies in the world. I feel pretty safe with it there because they're going to want to protect the reputation if something were to happen. They're going to do anything strange and run off with it. But I'm going to show you an example of, some of these platforms that are new that arrive are really just exit scams, and they just take off with everyone's money. So you got to be careful with that. If it's an unknown brand or an unknown name, you understand there's a lot of risk there with these staking pools and yield farms. But it is a really powerful, part of the ecosystem in DeFi. You look at these results and it's absolutely incredible. So, you're not going to see that in the banking system. So then also a part of the DeFi ecosystem is launch pads, IDOs, private sales, and pre-sales. And this is getting in on projects before they launch. And, obviously that can be very advantageous, even if the project isn't very good, or even if it's terrible. Other than the risk of an exit scam or rug pull, which we'll talk about, there's huge advantages because you often see a lot of people, a lot of pressure, and it spikes. And if you have a good strategy, it can be a great opportunity for really big returns. In fact, this is where we're seeing, I'll show you a resource in a minute that's fantastic at helping you find these. This is where we're seeing lots of people get a 2x, a 3x, a 10x, sometimes a 30x, sometimes a 1000x in minutes or hours, if not days. Days is a long time with these, of entering the trade. I'll say that again. The resource I'll show you, and the reason why this is so exciting for people is because it's not uncommon at all. In fact, it's very, very common that people see 2x, 5x, or way higher within minutes, hours, or days of entering the trade because you're finding them early. And here's an example of that. The resource I'm going to show you, this is from their gains and tips section. They have people tipping those that post these projects and let them know about it on a calendar. And here's someone shared they got a 390X and they tipped this person. 500 Vetter is the token they use to give the tips out for thanking them for this project. To access this calendar, you have to have some Vetter that you just hold, but you don't even have to spend it. You just have to have it in your account. You could sell it later. It's pretty powerful. And, I'll show you that calendar in a minute. Here's someone reported a 2X, 4X, the 5X here, another 4X, and they're tipping people, thanking them who posted on the calendar. They don't have to, but, they're pretty excited when they get those big returns. Also, there is Dows, and I'm not going to talk a lot about Dows. I'll put some resources below because it's not something you're really going to make money with unless you're creating a DAO, which is a big project. It stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organizations, and these are being set up really to overcome regulatory concerns about securities and stuff that DeFi can get into if you have a company that's issuing a token or launching a project. And it can be considered, people are concerned, it will be considered if the old 1930s SEC US laws are still applied, which right now they still are insinuating they will be, even though they're not enforcing it because it would kill the industry and nobody wants to do that. They know it's going to kill innovation and other countries are probably going to take over if that were to happen. But nonetheless, there is that risk, right, of the 1930s SEC laws that have very stringent rules around what a security is and stuff. So decentralized autonomous organizations are a way to overcome that. At least that's the theory so far, in that you've got all these people, a giant community of people voting. If they own a token, they're voting on what to do with the project. And so nobody really owns it. Nobody really directs it. And so this is really safe from a regulatory perspective. Of course, it has its own challenges and its own issues. So far, what a lot of people are doing that are setting up these projects are they start out like Ethereum started out, with a small group of people. Almost all of these have to, right? But then as long as they're making a move towards becoming decentralized, the standard out there is, as long as you're doing that within a couple of years and becoming a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, you're good. You're in the clear. And there's a lot of pressure for the SEC to change that old 1930s law because it just doesn't fit with this new world anymore. But a DAO is where a lot of people in a community vote and propose the direction of the project. And a lot of projects are moving towards, that kind of a setup. They don't start there. Well, the ones are starting there, but the larger ones typically don't start there because there's so much investment and stuff involved, and key decisions have to be made early to set up the structure, but then they're moving towards a decentralized autonomous organization. Now, one little point about this is typically the DAO just deals with the token itself. Someone can take that token and develop all kinds of, a website, an app, wallets, use it in lots of different ways and create a company around that. But the actual token itself might be moved towards structured around a decentralized autonomous organization. We'll put more resources down below if you're interested in learning about that. I'm going to stay focused now on, can you make money in DeFi? And the answer is obviously yes. That's the excitement around it, but there are risks, right? There could be scammers that are taking your money. There's something called impermanent loss and high risk platforms. So that high yield farming or staking or pools, like I showed you, Cake is paying like 50% annual, percentage rate. There's risks in there. And especially if you're doing farming, yield farming, where you're pairing two cryptos together, I'm going to talk about that. There's some pretty big risks there you should know about, called impermanent loss. And then rug pulls and exit scams. When we're talking about launch pads and getting in on those projects I told you about that are launching for the first time, sometimes the developers have no intention of building anything. They spin a good story, they put up a good website, people invest into it before it launches, and the developers run off with the money. There's ways to recognize that, and that resource I'm going to give you is a great one at being able to stay away from those. And there's strategies for, even if you got into one, how to get out and still profit, because oftentimes they still last a couple of days, weeks, or even months, and you can recognize them. But let's first talk about the risk of scammers taking your money, because this is actually a pretty big deal. So it's pretty common, like in Telegram, for example, and I'll just focus on Telegram as the example, but this is happening across social media, that you'll be in a Telegram group, and if you're fairly new or don't know this, somebody will put a profile picture up and look like they are an admin or someone that you've gotten used to in that group who's been helpful, or someone who's kind of leading that project, maybe the dev or whatever. And you'll be in this Telegram group following a project, excited about the project and watching this community. And then you have a question, and then someone says, hey, I can help you. And they look like somebody who's been interacting, but it's really just a fake profile. They've taken the picture, profile picture of the dev or an admin, a moderator, someone you think you trust in that group, and you think it's the moderator, but it's not, it's a scammer. And then they send you a direct message and they start helping you, and they might even be helpful. And then before you know it, they do something like tell you to connect your wallet so that you can, perform some kind of task you're trying to perform. And next thing you know, they've emptied your wallet of all your crypto. So just remember never to trust anybody reaching out to you. Yeah, you can get people's help, but if they're asking, don't trust them if they're asking you to connect your wallet. Don't trust them if they're asking you to send crypto somewhere. You really need to be careful about this. There's also an instance where, and this is particularly the case with, it's really easy to protect yourself if you know this stuff, but if you're kind of naive, you can get had a lot. So there might be a Telegram group, for example, that's communicating about the launch of a new crypto project. And then a scammer just sets up another Telegram group, puts in a bunch of fake profile pictures. A lot of these people are in underdeveloped countries. They have a lot of time on their hands. Even if they scam somebody $500, it's a lot of money. Of course, sometimes they're getting a lot more than that, but they're willing to put in the time, to make a Telegram group look exactly like the one that you're in, call it the same thing, put fake profiles and everything that look like the people that you know. They might, and then they start just adding people in there. So all of a sudden there's thousands of people in there, and you think it's the right Telegram group. Next thing you know, they say they're launching. They tell you where to send your crypto. You send it thinking it's the correct Telegram group and the correct project, but really you're just sending it into a black hole. So those are the kinds of things that's really easy to protect yourself if you just understand, like, you need to be responsible for knowing you're in the right Telegram group. You need to not just jump around and start throwing crypto at people. And just because they got a certain profile picture and a certain name underneath it, or a certain name of their Telegram group, like, it's really easy not to fall for this, but it's really easy to fall for it if you don't know about it. So, that's one of the big things that are happening, a big risk, but it's easy to avoid. Impermanent loss and high risk platforms. So yield farming is all the rage, right? Like, you get these really high percentages. Well, impermanent loss is one of the risks I want to talk to you about, and I have an awesome resource for you to be able to kind of see what you would end up losing if certain scenarios were to happen. So this is really, really helpful. I wish I would have known this before I started doing yield farming. There's also, and I'm going to show you that in a minute on the impermanent loss and explain what that is when you're doing yield farming. High risk platforms is what you really want to watch out for. Pancake Swap is obviously a really well-known name, as I was talking about before. But if you're looking at a project that, doesn't have a big backing behind it, doesn't have a big brand behind it, doesn't necessarily care about its long-term reputation, a lot of times what they'll do is exit scam. So you do need to be careful if it's a no name or a new project offering really high percentages, like thousands of percent. Sometimes you'll see. I'm going to show you an example of one in a minute that just exit scammed. And it's really, really common. And so you need to be careful with that. If you're going to do yield farming or park your crypto somewhere, just know that if it's not a reputable brand, the risk is through the roof and they could run off with your funds. So let's first talk about impermanent loss, because even on a legitimate platform, you're going to run into this as a risk. And so you notice the little circle here has Cake BNB. With farming, with yield farming, you get these different percentages offered. So what it's saying is, if you buy Cake and BNB, or if you already have them, for example, you basically put them together into what's called an LP, and then you park that LP at the decentralized exchange, like in this case, PancakeSwap. And so if you look down here, you'll see some of them are paying really high, like 191% APR. It's huge for a crypto called Gear. And if you partner that with BNB and LP, you're going to get 191%, which is huge. And here it's showing you the amount of liquidity, the amount of people that have done it, basically the amount of volume that they have parked in there. So here's like 1 million for that one. Cake and BNB are really well known, so that's 234 million. So impermanent loss, though, is when you have Cake, you have BNB, or you have gear and you have BNB, whichever two you're marrying together in the LP, and one of them goes up and one of them goes down in price, what happens when you take them back out? Well, that's what you're going to want to use this tool. I'm just going to go there right now. That's what you're going to want to use this tool for. And you're going to find a link to this below. It's online and it's live. It's super cool. So here you get to kind of get an idea of how much you would lose if one of the tokens went up in price and one of them went down, for example. Because when that happens, you don't actually lose money per se, but you lose what you would have gained, which is why it's called impermanent loss. So for example, let's say token A is BNB and token B is cake. And it says initial prices. So when you use this tool, which I'll link to below, you would enter in what their initial prices are. So let's say BNB is $417 right now and cake is $8. And let's say I lock them together into LP, I'm doing yield farming. And this would go with any, you could use any two tokens that you're doing yield farming with. Whenever you're doing yield farming, you're connecting two cryptos together. And if they're really high risk tokens, then they often pay really high percentages. And it's not that you can't do well, but it doesn't always work out well. Like for example, if you're pairing a really good one, a stable one, a well-known one like BNB, for example, with a junk one, here's where you could lose a lot on your BNB. So here's what we mean. Let's say token A is BNB, token B is cake, and then you enter in what ends up happening when you take it out. Let's say token A, the BNB goes to $560, and let's say token B only goes up $11. This isn't a dramatic difference. It's saying impermanent loss 0.01%. What happens is they end up giving you, like in this case, BNB went up a lot more than cake. They end up when you take it out, they end up giving you a lot more of the token that went up, or sorry, that went down in price. And they give you less of the one that went up in price. So you get the same dollar value back, but you don't get the gain. So you're going to get, in this case, you would get less BNB than you put in, and you would get more cake than you put in, and it would equal the same amount of dollars or currency, fiat, value, but you would not gain what you would have gained if you had just held on to cake and BNB and not locked it into liquidity. So if that doesn't make sense, I've got more resources below, and including this tool. There's more to it. It's going to show you exactly what you would have lost and gained. It's a really cool tool. And if you're going to be doing yield farming, you definitely want to use a tool like that to kind of have an idea and a handle on what's going on, because oftentimes you lose money if you had just hung in comparison to if you had just held on to those tokens and not locked them into liquidity because of impermanent loss. That tool is really, really helpful. The other risk is what I was referring to earlier, and we got a screenshot of it right now. Lava Cake was an example of a project, and you see like people, if you look over here on the lower left, you see people got into this, they bought it, they locked it up into like pools and into farms. So you see, like, I don't know if you can see this, but they had like Lava BUSD LP, Lava BNB LP, BNB BUSD, and they would have you lock this up and you'd get these really high interest yields. Like this was like, I don't know, these really high. Is that 5,000? Is it 5 million? I think it was in the millions. It was ridiculous. And so you lock it up in there and then you can't take it out for a period of time. And it looks like you're making all this money. And it's paying you in lava. It's paying you in their junk token. So I think you can kind of get the idea, you're buying lava, you're putting in your BUSD and lava. So now they're holding your BUSD or your BNB, your value tokens, and you've, bought lava, and you can kind of see where this can go. So a lot of people are buying lava, and then when it gets locked up, nobody can sell, right? Because it's all locked up and you're getting these crazy percentages. So a lot of people jump into these, like, I can't tell. When I saw it, it was in the thousands of percent. I heard it was even in the tens of thousands, and it looks almost like it was in the millions of percent, something ridiculous that it can pay out, these junk ones, to entice people to lock it up, right? And it's locked up for a period of time. And then so nobody can sell during that period of time. This is just one of the many kind of schemes that you can get yourself kind of stuck into with these junk ones, yield farms and stuff. Again, not all yield farms are junk, but this one definitely was. Doesn't mean you couldn't have made a lot of money on it before it died, but it's high risk. So the price shot up, and I don't know what it shot up to because I couldn't find information on it. When I was putting these slides together, I went and looked it up, and it's all gone. The website's gone, everything. In fact, we can look at this. This is what you get when you go to the website now. But when it first launched, people were buying it, and then it just shot up to from pennies. It was at pennies all the way up to $1,200. So imagine, 10,000x, I don't know. It's something crazy. Pennies to $1,200. And it might even have went beyond that. It was something ridiculous when it spiked because nobody could sell and everyone's buying who isn't really informed on what's going on. And they're seeing you're getting 1,000,000%. And it's probably a lot of the same people that got their money locked up because they're seeing showing you how much money you're making on that huge percentage payout, but you can't take it out. And then as soon as people can take it out, what happens? They sell, right? And they have so much lava because it's paying you back in lava. So everyone just dumps it, you see, as soon as those unlock. And then it goes back down to almost nothing. So a bunch of people ended up buying lava here at, $1,000, $500, $100, $900. And of course, that's all lost. And then it just ends up, that frenzy doesn't happen again because so many people got burned, they don't enter back into it and it just dies. And then now this is the website, it doesn't come up anymore. So that's an example of what can happen if you get involved with these ones that pay really high percentages, especially if they have you lock it up for a lockup period. Just know that they're going to offer high percentages, but the risk is really high. And it's not that you can't make a lot of money in those, but you can also lose a lot of money in those. So that's probably the bigger risk even than impermanent loss. So the other risk I want to talk about is rug pulls and exit scams. So you get into, this is when you're talking about launch pads, and I'm going to talk about that resource in a minute that shows you how you can find these projects that are launching for the very first time. It gives you a calendar, and you can even see the historic success or failure track record of the person who posted it. It's pretty cool. But before we get into that, just understand the risks. A rug pull is when you get into a project that's launching, and then, well, that's, kind of what this was. It just dies and then they disappear, after a few months. I wouldn't call that a rug pull. I would call that more an exit scam, what we're looking at here, this chart, because this was over the course of quite a few months. You could have got in and played with this safely. It's going up and down kind of organically. It's just the model set up where it does this crazy spike. And obviously the people who owned this, they had a bunch of lava. When they generated the token, they have a bunch of free lava, the creators of this. And when it was going up, they're selling a lot of lava because they don't have theirs in a lockup period, right? The creators of the project. Now, I wouldn't call this a rug pull because it did last for many months. And if you knew what was going on, they weren't trying to pretend that it wasn't what it was. It did play the way it was supposed to play, so in that way it was legitimate, I guess. But it's just playing off of people's ignorance, I guess. A lot of people, obviously, when they were buying at $500, they just didn't know what they were getting into. It should have been obvious that when it opens up, there's going to be massive selling, but not everybody thinks about all of that. So the model worked the way they said it would, but that's why I'd call it an exit scam. They kind of know they're going to get to sell here, and they kind of set the model up where they could just disappear after a few months and they made a lot of money, and a lot of people lost a lot of money. So I would call that an exit scam. If you're aware of what's going on, that's not going to happen to you. So that's why a resource that I'm going to show you in a minute is so helpful. This one here, in finding these and knowing how to find good ones. But here's the deal. You could have made a lot of money, I suppose, on this. I don't like to get into anything that has a lockup period if you don't know what they're actually building. Understand that a lot of these scammy ones or exit scammy ones that do this, that in this way, they're not building anything besides just offering high returns. That's a big red flag, right there. Are they building a utility? Are they building something that's generating a profit? Where's the percentage payouts coming from, right? These are some of the questions you want to ask. And if they are building a utility, that they're not going to exit scam because they're building something that positions them to be in the market indefinitely. And they're actually building something of value. If they're just promising to pay a bunch of interest, but they're not creating anything, that doesn't really make any sense, does it? So it is pretty easy to be able to spot some of these. Just ask the question, hey, what are you building? What are you creating of value? If that's there, then they're probably not going to exit scam. Now, rug pulls happen a lot faster. A rug pull, it'll launch, it'll be a new crypto. People, get into the pre-sale. A pre-sale is when you can buy into it before it actually launches on an exchange. And then when it launches, you suddenly realize you can't sell because the contract was designed where you couldn't. Or you suddenly realize the devs are just dumping all of the tokens that they had and they had no intention of doing anything. And again, there are ways of spotting that. Like, for example, find teams that have done a successful project before, find teams that have built successful, utility projects before is a big way to identify those good ones. But another great tool to be able to find these, find these like on this calendar, and to be able to kind of have a measurement to know, okay, is there a successful track record here with the person who's sharing this, the person who's posting this crypto that's launching, so you can know where to focus and know where you're going to get good results. This Vetter platform is fantastic as a research tool. And they got all kinds of things here I was talking about earlier, gains and tips. And I'll put this in the links below. You can check this out. But they're showing these are people posting the gains that they got, and they're tipping. They're literally tipping, and this is worth value and this is worth money. They're tipping Vetter token to the person that posted the project on the calendar. And you see these different colors. The different colors show when you connect. This is what you see if you don't connect your wallet. It's just showing you that here's one private sale, here's one IDO. If you don't know what these things are, again, look in the resources below, and I have videos on, these different projects that launch before they're on a DEX, before they're on an exchange. You can have private sales, you can have IDOs, you can have fair launches, you can have pre-sales. These are like different types of structures that are launching before they're released. But when you connect your wallet, you get to actually click, like say this is the 8th, and you could click on one of these. You need to have Vetter token in your wallet, but you click on this and you get to get all kinds of information. You get to go to their website of this project launching, get to see the date, like date of the pre-sale, which is the date it launches, and it's really cool. And also these colors are indicating how active the poster is, who posted the project. And if it's purple in the upper right corner, then, because there's different things, there's ranking for their voting rank, their vetting rank, like some people are vetters, but the really big one to pay attention to at first is the scout rank, because if it's purple, that means the past projects they posted on the calendar did really, really well and made people a lot of money. And so it's really cool, because what you get a lot in this industry is people posting projects and they don't care if they're good or bad, and nobody knows if they're just shilling some project that's doing bad, but they're just dumping them like a pump and dump, or if somebody really is sharing a project that, with good intentions. If they've got a purple voter rank, then, they got a historic track record on this platform of sharing projects that have helped people make a lot of money. And there's other rankings too. You can check it out, but look at all these reported 4Xs and 6Xs and 10Xs. I mean, it just goes on, and there's hundreds and hundreds of them. And it's a fairly new platform, a couple months old. Really, really, really great resource. I'll put a link to that below. So again, I'll put a resource to the impermanent loss calculator. If you're going to be doing yield farming, you definitely want to pay attention to that. Some upcoming topics, guys: how to set up MetaMask for those of you who are brand new, how to turn Ethereum into BNB and vice versa with PancakeSwap, strategies for entering a trade the moment a crypto lands on a DEX. So right when it hits, PancakeSwap or UniSwap, what do you do? Like, there's strategies, because they usually spike and then they come down, and if there's good utility and it's a good team, then you can really get in early at a really low price and see it do some amazing things. And again, on this Vetter platform, I was talking about these 4Xs, this 10X, I've seen, 390X, I think I showed you earlier. These are happening, here's a 7X. These are happening within minutes, hours, or days. And days is a long time in this space that they're getting these. So pretty powerful, worth digging into. So again, not financial advice, but, these are this kind of the secrets behind DeFi, where people are really making the big returns. You got to make your own choices. I can't encourage you to get involved with these things, but if you're going to jump into DeFi, here's some awesome resources below this video. I've referenced some of them, and there's others to really help you kind of mitigate risks and to be able to pinpoint, like, where should you be putting your energy and your research time to find the gems and find those big gainers. Also, like the video if you like this kind of stuff. Subscribe. We're going to be putting out like really good content, on topics like this to really help you win. Tick the bell so you can get notified. Otherwise, you'll never see them. And select all so you get notified as we post these videos coming forward. And that's a wrap, guys. We're going to do more of these and help you really win in the game of DeFi. All right, we'll see you soon.